The dust kicked up by Marcus Crenshaw's horse settled slowly in the stifling heat of the Arizona desert as he approached Gilman's trading post. The former cavalry captain turned rancher had ridden 30 miles from his spread to collect supplies and conduct business. But what he saw chained to the hitching post outside the ramshackle building made his blood run. Cold. An Apache girl, no more than 18, sat in the blazing sun with iron shackles around her wrists and ankles. Her long, black hair hung in matted tangles around a face marked by exhaustion and defiance, and her traditional dress was torn and filthy. But it was her eyes that hit Marcus like a physical blow, dark as midnight and filled with a pride that even captivity couldn't break. Marcus had served 5 years in the cavalry during the Apache Wars, had seen more death and destruction than any man should witness. He had followed orders, fought battles, and done his duty as a soldier. But he had also seen enough injustice disguised as military necessity to sicken him, which was why he had left the army to build a ranch where he could live by his own moral code. The sight of the chained girl shattered that carefully constructed peace. "Morning, Captain Crenshaw," called out Joe Gilman, the trading post owner, emerging from his store with a wide grin. "Good to see you. Come to pick up those supplies." Marcus dismounted slowly, his eyes never leaving the girl. "Joe, what the hell is this?" "Oh, her." Gilman glanced casually at the chained Apache as if she were just another piece of merchandise. "That's Aiyana. Found her half dead near Skeleton Canyon after a cavalry raid. Figured I'd nurse her back to health and sell her to someone who needs domestic help." "Sell her?" Marcus's voice was dangerously quiet. "Joe, slavery's been illegal for over 20 years. Gilman laughed and spat tobacco juice into the dust. "Come on, Captain. You know how things work out here. Apache girl's got no family, no tribe to go back to. She'd just die in the desert if I hadn't taken her in. I'm providing a service, giving her a chance at a civilized life." Marcus looked at the girl again and saw her watching him with those fierce dark eyes. She understood English, he realized. She was hearing every word of this conversation about her fate, and there was no submission in her gaze, only a burning hatred for the men who treated her like property. "How much do you want for her?" Marcus asked quietly. Gilman's eyes lit up with greed. "Well now, Captain, she's young and strong, good for cooking, cleaning, all kinds of work. I was thinking maybe $100 to $100. Marcus repeated, fighting to keep his voice level. Every instinct screamed at him to draw his gun and demand the girl's immediate release. But he had learned patience during his military years. Sometimes you had to play along to win the larger game. "Tell you what," Marcus continued, pulling out his wallet. "I'll give you $50 right now, and another 50 when I pick up my supplies next month." 50? Gilman looked offended. "Captain, that girl's worth at least $50 for a half-dead Apache girl that you found in the desert." Marcus interrupted. "Take it or leave it, Joe. But if you leave it, I might just have to mention to Sheriff Watson how you've been conducting business out here." The threat was subtle but clear. Sheriff Watson was an honest man who wouldn't tolerate slavery in his county, regardless of how Gilman tried to justify it. All right, Gilman grumbled, snatching the money from Marcus's hand. "But you're robbing me blind. Captain, that girl could work for 20 years. Marcus pulled out the key to the shackles that Gilman reluctantly handed over and knelt beside the Apache girl. Up close, he could see the raw wounds on her wrists where the iron had chafed, the hollow cheeks that spoke of poor nutrition, the way she held herself despite her exhaustion. "I'm going to remove these chains," Marcus said quietly, speaking directly to her for the first time. "You don't have to be afraid." The girl's eyes flickered with surprise. She had clearly expected him to simply transfer ownership of her chains, not remove them entirely. As the shackles fell away, the girl rubbed her wrists and slowly stood on unsteady legs. Marcus noticed she was taller than he had expected, with the lean build of someone accustomed to hard travel and sparse meals. "What's your name?" Marcus asked gently. The girl stared at him for a long moment, clearly weighing whether to answer. Finally, she spoke in a voice roughened by thirst and disuse. "Aiyana." "Aiyana," Marcus repeated. "That's a beautiful name. I'm Marcus Crenshaw. You buy me, Aiyana said, her English accented but clear. Now I work for you. Marcus felt something twist in his chest at the resignation in her voice. No, Aiyana. I bought your freedom. You don't work for me unless you choose to. Confusion flickered across her features. I don't understand. You're free, Marcus said simply. I'm not your owner. You can go wherever you want, do whatever you want. Aiyana stared at him as if he had spoken in an alien tongue. Free, Marcus. Confirmed. Where do I go? The question was barely a whisper. My people are dead. My village burned. Where does Apache girl go in white man's world? The pain in her voice cut Marcus to the bone. She was right. Of course, a lone Apache girl in 1880s Arizona had few options for survival, especially with the ongoing tensions between settlers and the remaining free Apache bands. You could come to my ranch, Marcus heard himself saying. Just until you figure out what you want to do. I could use help with the household, and you'd have a place to recover your strength. Aiyana studied his face with those penetrating dark eyes. Why you help me? Apache and white soldiers are enemies. Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to answer. Because I've seen enough war, Aiyana. I've seen enough suffering. Maybe it's time to try something different. You were soldier, cavalry captain for 5 years. I fought in the campaigns against Geronimo, Victorio, others. Aiyana's expression hardened. You killed my people. Yes, Marcus said simply. I probably did. And I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. But I can't change the past. All I can do is try to make better choices now. Aiyana was silent for so long that Marcus began to think she would refuse his offer. Then, quietly, she said, How far is your ranch? About 30 miles north. Good water. Plenty of food, and you'd have your own room. You'd be safe there, Aiyana. Safe, she repeated, as if testing the word. I have not been safe for a long time. You would be with me, Marcus promised. I give you my word. Aiyana looked at this strange white man who had bought her freedom instead of her servitude, who offered shelter instead of chains. Against all logic and experience, something in his manner made her want to trust him. I come to your ranch, she said finally, but I am not your slave. You're not my slave. Marcus agreed. You're my guest. As Marcus helped Aiyana onto his horse for the ride to his ranch, he found himself wondering what he had gotten himself into. By taking in a lone Apache woman, he was violating every unwritten rule of frontier society. His neighbors would be outraged, his business relationships strained, his reputation potentially ruined. But when he looked at Aiyana's face as they rode away from Gilman's trading post, saw the cautious hope beginning to replace the despair, Marcus knew he had made the right choice. Some things were more important than social acceptance or business relationships. Some things were worth breaking your own laws for, Marcus. Aiyana said as they rode through the desert landscape. Why you change? From soldier to rancher? Marcus considered the question. I got tired of destroying things. I wanted to build something instead. Create life instead of taking it. Ranch is life. My ranch is my attempt at redemption. Marcus said quietly. My way of trying to balance the scales after all the death I've been part of. Aiyana nodded slowly, understanding. You try to heal your spirit. Something like that. What about you, Aiyana? What will heal your spirit? Aiyana was quiet for a long time, watching the endless desert stretch before them. I do not know if my spirit can heal, she said finally. Too much broken, too much lost. Maybe we can figure it out together, Marcus said. To broken spirits trying to find their way to something better. As the sun began to set over the desert, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Marcus and Aiyana rode toward an uncertain future. Behind them lay the ruins of their old lives, his as a soldier who had lost faith in his mission, hers as a young woman whose world had been destroyed by war. Ahead lay something neither had expected to find, the possibility of healing, understanding, and perhaps even love growing from the ashes of loss. The Broken Arrow Ranch sprawled across a high valley where grass grew green, despite the desert surrounding it. As they crested the hill overlooking Marcus's spread, Aiyana felt her breath catch after months of captivity and before that, years of running from the cavalry. She had forgotten that places of such beauty could still exist. "It's beautiful," she said softly, the first unguarded words she had spoken since leaving the trading post. Marcus felt warmth spread through his chest at her reaction. "Thank you. I chose this location because it reminded me of better times before the war." The ranch house was modest but well built, constructed of local stone and timber with a wide porch that offered shade from the desert sun. There were corrals where horses moved with easy grace, a barn that looked sturdy and well-maintained, and a sense of peace that seemed to emanate from the very land itself. "You built all this?" Aiyana asked as they approached the house. Most of it had some help from neighbors for the barn raising, but the house and most of the outbuildings I did myself. Gave me something to do with my hands besides hold weapons. As they dismounted, a weathered Mexican man emerged from the barn. Marcus waved to him. "That's Luis Herrera, my foreman. He's been with me since I started the ranch. Good man, fair, and he minds his own business." Luis approached with a curious but respectful expression. When he saw Aiyana, his eyebrows rose slightly, but he simply touched his hat brim in greeting. "Luis, this is Aiyana," Marcus said simply. "She'll be staying with us for a while, helping with the household." "Segurita," Luis said politely. "Welcome to Broken Arrow." Aiyana nodded acknowledgement, noting that Luis showed none of the hostility or fear she was accustomed to seeing in white men's faces when they looked at her. Double quotes Luis. "Could you see to the horses? I'll show Aiyana to the house." As Luis led the horses away, Marcus guided Aiyana to the front porch. She moved carefully, still weak from her ordeal, but with the natural grace that seemed inherent to her people. "This would be your room," Marcus said, opening a door off the main hallway to reveal a simple but comfortable space with a real bed, clean linens, and a window that looked out over the valley. "There's a wash basin and fresh water, and I'll bring you some clothes that should fit better than what you're wearing now." Aiyana stared at the room, the first private space she had been offered in months. "This is mine. For as long as you want it," Marcus confirmed. "The door has a lock, and you're the only one with the key. Your privacy will be respected." The concept of privacy, of security, of having a space that couldn't be invaded at someone else's whim, was almost overwhelming. Aiyana sat heavily on the edge of the bed, her hands shaking slightly. "Aiyana, are you all right?" She looked up at him, the strange white man who had bought her freedom and now offered her sanctuary. "I am trying to understand why you do this. In my experience, white men take, they do not give." Marcus leaned against the doorframe, giving her space. "Maybe you've just been meeting the wrong white men." "Maybe," Aiyana said, but her tone suggested she wasn't convinced. Over the following days, a careful routine developed. Aiyana helped with cooking and basic household tasks, though Marcus insisted she rest frequently and eat regular meals. She was clearly malnourished and exhausted, and he could see her slowly gaining strength as proper food and safety began to work their healing magic. But it was the emotional distance that proved more challenging to bridge. Aiyana spoke when spoken to, performed her tasks efficiently, and remained unfailingly polite. But there was a wall around her that seemed impenetrable, a guardedness that never fully relaxed even when she thought she was unobserved. Marcus found himself studying her when he thought she wasn't looking, trying to understand the woman behind the careful mask. Sometimes he caught glimpses of who she might have been before tragedy struck, a flash of humor when Luis told a story about his horses, a moment of wonder when she watched the sunset paint the mountains, a brief smile when the ranch cat decided to adopt her as his favorite human. "You're healing," Marcus observed one evening as they sat on the porch after dinner. "You have more color in your face, and you're not as thin as when you arrived." "My body heals," Aiyana replied carefully. "Bodies are simple. Feed them, rest them, protect them from harm. They recover. And what about the rest of you?" Aiyana was quiet for a long moment, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. "The rest of me, that is more complicated. Want to talk about it? Why do you care?" The question wasn't hostile, just genuinely curious. "I am Apache. You are white soldier. We are enemies by birth and history. Why does my healing matter to you?" Marcus considered how to answer that question, one he had been asking himself for weeks. Because I've seen enough destruction, Aiyana. I've caused enough pain. Maybe helping you heal helps me heal too. You feel guilt for war. I feel guilt for a lot of things. Orders I followed that I should have questioned. Villages I helped destroy that posed no real threat. People I killed who were just defending their homes and families. Aiyana studied his profile in the lamplight streaming from the house. In war, everyone loses their souls a little. Did you lose yours? I thought so, Aiyana said quietly. When I watched my family die, when I was captured, when I was chained like an animal, I thought my spirit had died with them. And now I am not sure. Sometimes, when I watch you work with the horses or see how gentle you are with the injured calf, I think maybe spirits can grow back, like broken bones, stronger in the places where they were broken. Marcus felt something shift in his chest at her words. Aiyana, can I ask you something? She nodded. What was your life like before the war? I mean, what did you want to be? A shadow of pain crossed her features, but she answered. I was learning to be a healer. My grandmother was medicine woman for our band. She taught me about plants, about spirits, about how to help people find balance when sickness came. A healer, Marcus repeated. That's beautiful, Aiyana. Do you still remember what she taught you? Some of it. But healing requires more than knowledge. It requires belief that healing is possible. And you don't believe that anymore? Aiyana looked at him directly, and Marcus saw depths of pain in her dark eyes that made his chest ache. Marcus, how do you heal someone whose entire world has been destroyed? How do you bring balance to a life that has lost all its anchor points? Maybe, Marcus said carefully, you start by building new anchor points. Maybe healing isn't about getting back what you lost, but about creating something new from what remains. Is that what you are trying to do? Build new anchor points? I think so. This ranch, this life. It's my attempt to create something good from the wreckage of what I used to be. Aiyana was quiet for a long time. Then, so softly he almost missed it, she said, Perhaps I could try to remember some of my grandmother's teachings. There are plants here that I recognize, healing plants. Maybe I could help if someone is injured or sick. Marcus felt a surge of hope at the tentative offer. I would be honored if you shared that knowledge, Aiyana. Luis has been complaining about his aching back, and one of the horses has a cut that's been slow to heal. I could look at them, Aiyana said, and Marcus heard something in her voice that hadn't been there before, a hint of purpose, of connection to something larger than mere survival. Thank you, Marcus said simply. As they sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars wheel overhead, Marcus realized that something fundamental had shifted between them. The careful politeness was still there, but underneath it was the beginning of something deeper, trust, perhaps, or at least the possibility of trust. Marcus, Aiyana said as they prepared to go inside, the name of your ranch, Broken Arrow. What does it mean? Marcus was quiet for a moment. In cavalry terms, Broken Arrow means a mission that's been called off, something that didn't go as planned. When I named the ranch, I guess I was thinking about all the missions that had gone wrong, all the plans that had led to destruction instead of peace. But Broken Arrow has other meanings, Aiyana said thoughtfully. In my people's tradition, Broken Arrow means the end of conflict. It means choosing peace over war. Marcus looked at her with surprise. I didn't know that. Maybe you chose the name for reasons you did not fully understand, Aiyana suggested. Maybe your spirit knew what your mind had not yet learned. Maybe, Marcus agreed. What would you have named this place? Aiyana considered the question, looking out over the peaceful valley bathed in starlight. Healing ground, she said finally. A place where broken things come to grow whole again. Healing ground, Marcus repeated. I like that better than Broken Arrow. Names are important, Aiyana said. They shape how we see ourselves, how we understand our purpose. What would you name yourself if you could choose a new name? A name for who you're becoming instead of who you were. Aiyana smiled, the first real, unguarded smile Marcus had seen from her. I think Aiyana is good. It means eternal blossom. My grandmother said that no matter how harsh the winter, spring always returns. Flowers always bloom again. Eternal blossom, Marcus said softly. Yes, I think that's exactly right. As they said good night and went to their separate rooms, both felt something had changed between them. The distance was still there, but it no longer felt like a wall, more like a bridge they were learning to cross, one careful step at a time. 3 months had passed since Marcus brought Aiyana to Broken Arrow Ranch, and the transformation in both of them was remarkable. Aiyana had regained her strength and some measure of peace, while Marcus had rediscovered what it meant to have purpose beyond mere survival. But their carefully built sanctuary was about to face its greatest test. The trouble arrived on a scorching August morning in the form of Colonel James Morrison, Marcus's former commanding officer, accompanied by 6 cavalry troopers and the territorial Indian agent, a thin, officious man named Cyrus Pemberton. Marcus was working with a fractious horse in the corral when he saw the dust cloud approaching. His blood chilled as he recognized the military formation, and he quickly sent Luis to warn Aiyana to stay in the house. "Captain Crenshaw," Colonel Morrison called out as the party rode into the ranch yard. "Good to see you again, Colonel Morrison," Marcus replied evenly, removing his head in a gesture of respect he no longer felt. "What brings the army to my ranch? Official business, I'm afraid." Morrison dismounted, his expression grave. "We're looking for a fugitive Apache woman, goes by the name Aiyana. Word is she might be in this area." Marcus kept his expression carefully neutral. "What she wanted for? Escape from federal custody." Pemberton interjected in his nasal voice. "The woman was legally detained as a prisoner of war and subsequently assigned to work detail at Fort Apache. Her unauthorized departure constitutes a federal crime." "Work detail," Marcus repeated. "You mean slavery?" "I mean legal labor assignment under federal Indian policy," Pemberton snapped. "The woman was fed, clothed, and given useful work. Running away was both illegal and ungrateful." "Ungrateful," Marcus said, his voice dangerously quiet. "For being enslaved." Colonel Morrison stepped forward. "Marcus, let's not make this more complicated than it needs to be. We have reports that you purchased an Apache woman from Joe Gilman's trading post 3 months ago. We just need to confirm whether this was the fugitive we're seeking." Marcus felt the weight of the moment settling around him like a physical presence. He could lie, claim he had never bought anyone from Gilman, but the colonel clearly already had witnesses to the transaction. He could claim Aiyana had left the ranch weeks ago, but that would only buy temporary time before they found her trail. Or he could tell the truth and face the consequences. "I did purchase a woman from Gilman," Marcus said finally, "but not to enslave her, to free her." "Where is she now?" Pemberton demanded. Before Marcus could answer, Aiyana emerged from the house. She had clearly been listening to the conversation, and Marcus felt his heart clench as he saw the resigned acceptance in her posture. She had lived this scene before the moment when safety ended and captivity resumed. "I am here," Aiyana said simply. Pemberton stepped forward eagerly. "Aiyana, Apache woman, age approximately 18, formerly of Victorio's band. You're under arrest for escape from federal custody." "She's not going anywhere," Marcus said, moving to stand between Aiyana and the soldiers. "Marcus," Colonel Morrison's voice carried a warning, "don't make this harder than it has to be. You're harboring a federal fugitive. That's a serious crime." "She's not a fugitive," Marcus replied. "She's a free woman living on my ranch by her own choice. The Apache have no legal standing under territorial law," Pemberton said smugly. "They're wards of the federal government, to be managed as the government sees fit. This woman belongs at Fort Apache. This woman belongs to herself." Marcus shot back. "The war's over, Pemberton. It's time to stop treating people like property." "The war's over when I say it's over," Morrison interjected. "Marcus, you're letting your emotions cloud your judgment. Stand aside and let us do our job." "No," the single word rang across the ranch yard like a gunshot. Morrison's face darkened with anger. "That's insubordination, Captain. I'm not your captain anymore, Jim. I'm a civilian on my own land, and this woman is under my protection. Protection you have no legal authority to provide." Pemberton snarled, "Sergeant, arrest them both." As the soldiers began to move forward, Luis appeared from the barn carrying a rifle, and several other ranch hands emerged from various buildings, all armed. The soldiers hesitated, suddenly outnumbered. "I wouldn't," Marcus said quietly. "My men are loyal, and they're better shots than your boys. This doesn't have to end in bloodshed. Marcus, Morrison said, his voice tight with frustration. You're making a terrible mistake. You can't fight the federal government. Watch me. Aiyana stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on Marcus's arm. Marcus, no, do not destroy your life. For me, Aiyana, they are right about one thing, she said quietly. You cannot win this fight with guns, but there may be another way. She turned to face Colonel Morrison directly. Colonel, you say I am prisoner of war? That's correct. Then I challenge this designation. I was not captured in battle. I was found half dead by civilians and sold like property. I demand trial, under territorial law to determine my legal status. Pemberton laughed harshly. Apache don't get trials. American citizens do, Marcus said, understanding dawning in his voice. Aiyana, are you sure? Aiyana nodded, her chin raised with the pride Marcus had come to recognize and admire. I claim protection under territorial law as a free resident of Arizona Territory. Preposterous, Pemberton sputtered. She has no standing. Actually, Colonel Morrison said slowly. She might, if she's been living as a free civilian for 3 months, supporting herself through honest work, and can demonstrate ties to the community. Jim, you can't be serious, Pemberton protested. I'm serious about following the law. Morrison replied. And the law says that any person residing in the territory has the right to petition for determination of their legal status. Marcus felt a surge of hope. There will have to be a hearing, a federal hearing. Morrison confirmed, with a federal judge. If the judge determines that Miss Aiyana has legal standing as a territorial resident, then the prisoner of war designation would be invalid. And if the judge rules against her, Marcus asked, then she returns to Fort Apache, Pemberton said with satisfaction. Aiyana looked at Marcus, her dark eyes calm and determined. I will take this chance. It is better to fight with law than with guns. The hearing will be in Tucson, Morrison said. 2 weeks from today. Miss Aiyana will remain in federal custody until then. No, Marcus said immediately. She stays here. I'll post bond for her appearance. You can't post bond for federal fugitive, Pemberton objected. She's not a fugitive if she's claiming legal standing, Morrison corrected. And Captain Crenshaw's word was always good enough for me. He looked at Marcus seriously. $5,000 bond, Marcus. You forfeit your ranch if she doesn't appear. Done, Marcus said without hesitation. 2 weeks later, the federal courthouse in Tucson was packed with spectators who had come to witness the unusual case of an Apache woman claiming American citizenship. Marcus sat in the front row, having spent every day since the confrontation at his ranch preparing Aiyana's case. With the help of a sympathetic lawyer from Phoenix, Judge William Stevens, a fair-minded man known for his adherence to legal precedent, rather than popular opinion, listened carefully as both sides presented their arguments. Pemberton argued that Aiyana was a prisoner of war with no legal rights, that allowing her to claim citizenship would set a dangerous precedent for other Apache seeking to escape federal custody. The defense lawyer argued that Aiyana had been living as a free civilian, contributing to the territorial economy, and had been illegally enslaved rather than legally detained. When Aiyana was called to testify, she stood with quiet dignity and spoke clearly about her life before the war, her capture and enslavement, and her months at Broken Arrow Ranch. Your Honor, she said in conclusion, I do not ask for special treatment. I ask only for the same rights that any person living peacefully in this territory should have the right to choose my own path, to work for my own benefit, to live free from bondage. Judge Stevens deliberated for only an hour before returning with his decision. The court finds that the plaintiff, known as Aiyana, was not lawfully detained as a prisoner of war, but was rather the victim of illegal enslavement. Furthermore, her residence and employment at Broken Arrow Ranch demonstrates her successful integration into territorial society. The court hereby grants her petition for recognition as a free resident of Arizona Territory, with all rights and protections afforded to. The courtroom erupted in cheers and protests, but Marcus heard only Aiyana's quiet sob of relief as 3 months of fear and uncertainty finally ended. Outside the courthouse, as they prepared for the journey back to the ranch, Colonel Morrison approached Marcus privately. "You know this isn't over," he said quietly. "There are people who won't accept this decision, who'll make trouble for both of you." "Let them try," Marcus replied. "Aiyana's free now, legally and completely. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with federal law. What about you two?" Morrison asked. "What happens now?" Marcus looked at Aiyana, who was speaking. With their lawyer, her face radiant with joy and relief. "Now we go home, and we figure out what free people do with their freedom." That evening, as they sat on the familiar porch of Broken Arrow Ranch watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and crimson, Aiyana turned to Marcus with a smile that took his breath away. "Marcus," she said softly, "thank you for breaking your own laws to set me free." "What do you mean?" "You were a soldier who followed orders, believed in rules and regulations. But when you saw me in chains, you broke those rules. You chose mercy over law, compassion over conformity." Marcus took her hand, marveling at how natural the gesture felt. "Sometimes the law is wrong, Aiyana. Sometimes the right thing to do is break the rules. And sometimes," Aiyana said, "breaking the rules leads to something better than what existed before." "What comes next?" Marcus asked. "Now that you're legally free, you can go anywhere, do anything you want." Aiyana smiled, squeezing his hand gently. "I think I would like to stay here, if you will have me. Not as a worker or a guest, but as a partner. Help you turn Broken Arrow into the healing ground we talked about." "Partners," Marcus said, his heart full of hope and love. "I can't think of anything I'd like more." As the stars emerged in the darkening sky, Marcus and Aiyana sat together planning their future, a rancher and a healer. To people who had found freedom not just from their pasts, but from the limitations that society had tried to place on their hearts. "You know," Aiyana said thoughtfully, "my grandmother used to say that sometimes the most beautiful flowers grow in places where the ground has been broken and turned over, where old things have died to make room for new life." "Is that what we're doing?" Marcus asked. "Growing something beautiful in broken ground?" "I think so," Aiyana replied, leaning into his warmth. "I think we're proving that love can grow anywhere, if you're brave enough to break the rules that try to keep it from blooming." As they held each other under the vast Arizona sky, both knew they had found something worth more than freedom. They had found home, love, and the courage to build a future that honored both their pasts and their hopes for tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories of love breaking through injustice. Hit that notification bell to never miss our epic tales of courage conquering prejudice.